Guys, today's video is going to be a little bit different than what you normally get from my channel. I've recently decided to revamp my channel into more of a lifestyle type of channel. So you're going to start to see story times, you're going to get your makeup, your hair reviews, and just an overall lifestyle type of experience when you come to my channel. So super weird that I'm starting with this particular topic, but this video is my experience with having surgery, my gallbladder removal during the COVID-19 pandemic and what that experience was. So if you want to hear what that is, stay tuned. So I just finished getting my COVID test. Today is Wednesday. It's my appointment was at 1. It's about 1:45. They also did an EKG and took blood. So I wasn't expecting that part, not that it bothers me, but so now I have to go home and quarantine until my surgery, Saturday, 6 a.m. So I'm ready. COVID test wasn't so bad. You know, you hear some of these horror stories, but it just tickled a little bit, made my eyes water. And my nurse, she was fantastic. She kept me laughing the whole time. So I wish she was going to be my nurse on Saturday, but she's not. It's surgery day, and I am nervous as hell, like for real. But I think just because I've been sitting in this bed and mind racing, but I'm ready. Like always, it's unnerving, and nobody can, you know, there's no one in here with me, so, but I got this. So recently I had been on a health journey to lose weight because they had told me that I was pre-diabetic. And so I started to change my diet gradually, and I started to notice that when I would try to do like some keto, dirty keto type of recipes, or anything that I would eat that would be high fat, I would get a pain in my side. And so one particular night, I had a real bad pain, and I didn't know what it was, and it lasted for hours. I was in tears, and it was on my right side, and it went all the way up to my right shoulder. And so I didn't know what it was, got through the night, and I decided, okay, I've kind of experienced a similar pain, not that severe. So I decided to reach out to the doctor, ask a general question. Hey, is this something I should be concerned about? And so she said, yeah, come in. So I went in 2 days later, and we just had a brief discussion. And she basically told me that maybe, possibly, it could be gallstones. So I had heard of gallstones, of course, but I really didn't know too much about it. And so she said, well, let's get an x-ray done. Let's take a look. Let's see if you have those. So a couple of days later, I went and had a sonogram done. Hopefully, I think it's a sonogram, x-ray. And y'all, I was so nosy. Because, you know, the tech is not supposed to tell you anything. They're just supposed to do their job, do the scan, and send the pictures to your doctor. But I'm like looking, literally like trying to break my neck, trying to see what was on the screen. So she laughed at me and was like, do you want to see? So I was like, yeah. So she said, these little things right here, those are gallstones, and that's what's giving you your problems. So I asked her, from her experience, from her knowledge, how do they fix that? Like, is there medicine I can take? And I knew she wasn't a doctor. But I just wanted to know from her knowledge, her experience, like, you know, what do they normally do? And she said, usually it's surgery, you know, they take out your gallbladder. So she reached out to my doctor. She sent the, they sent the scans to my doctor. And my doctor, we can communicate back and forth through the app, the health app for Baylor here in Dallas. So we were communicating back and forth that way. And she said, yeah, just looking at it, I'm going to refer you to a surgeon. She was like, that is the only way that it can be fixed is if your gallbladder, it has to be removed. She said, you don't have to get it done right away, but eventually, if you start to have more attacks and things like that, she's still going to consider telling me to go to the surgeon. So I said, well, let me just talk to the surgeon, see what happens. So met with the surgeon a week later. Now, mind you, this is around Thanksgiving, shortly after Thanksgiving. Met with the surgeon, and I asked him, you know, are there any other alternatives outside of surgery? And he said, well, you know, people try to shrink them. They try to give you medication and things like that for it. But what ends up happening is even if we try that route down the line, it doesn't stop them from forming. You can still get them. And then on top of that, you can get them even worse, and the attacks will still happen. So he advised this is the best way. So, I mean, this is a lot to take in within, you know, the next couple of weeks. You know, I'm thinking, okay, well, I got time to think about it. And he was like, oh, so, you know, when are you trying to get this done? Like, literally, that is exactly what he said. And so I didn't know. I was like, well, maybe I'll just wait to the first of the year because COVID is happening. And, you know, just the whole fear of going in to have surgery. And there's COVID-19. So he scheduled it for the 19th of December, which was a week and a half from our conversation. So I decided to go ahead and get it done on the 19th. And what was told to me was due to COVID, of course, no one is going to be able to come with you. So I'm thinking, okay, cool. They can come with me. They just have to wait in the waiting room. No, they couldn't even come in the building. So I literally had to be dropped off at the door. So they told me that over the phone before I went. And that made me a little nervous, a little apprehensive because, you know, just the whole idea of surgery, and then I got to go in there by myself. So 2 days before my surgery, I had to, no, 3 days before my surgery. It was 48 to 72 hours before the surgery. I had to go and get a COVID test. Got my COVID test, and once you get your COVID test, you have to go straight home and quarantine until your surgery. So there's no company, like no one could come to my home. I couldn't go anywhere. And the people that I lived with just had to be really careful about where they would go outside of the house. But I had to quarantine for 3 days before my surgery. So the morning of, you know, 3 days gives you a lot of time to like think, well, shoot, am I doing this right? I mean, Christmas is like next week. Like all of these thoughts are going through my head. So I'm like, okay, just, you know, put your big girl panties on, girl, get it done. I'm asking everybody, and everybody's like, oh, girl, you'll be fine. It's nothing, you know, just a little small incision. And girl, you're gonna be good. Yeah. Just be careful what you eat after, you know. Everybody has, you know, what they know about gallbladder removals and things like that. So I heard it all. So for the past 3 days, I was contemplating, should I reschedule? You know, like, what should I do? So I decided to go ahead and go along with it. So I got there. I had to be there at 6 a.m. at this surgery center, and the same place where I had my COVID test. and I got dropped off at the door because nobody could come with me. So once I got there, we went over the questionnaire again just to make sure I didn't go anywhere and I didn't get exposed to COVID-19. And they took me to I got on the elevator and went to the 3rd floor to wait to be taken back for my surgery. So when I got there, there was like another waiting room. So there was like 2 other people there waiting to get something else done. And so they took them on back, and I'm still waiting in the waiting room. And here comes another lady, and I could tell she was just as, you know, nervous as I was, because she sat down. She was like, "Hi, like, what are you getting done? Like, we up in here getting plastic surgery or something." I want to say I'm getting an organ removed. But I didn't. But I could tell she was just as nervous as I was. And so I told her, I was like, "Oh, I have, you know, I have gallstones and I'm getting my gallbladder removed." And she was in the process of about to tell me what she was getting done. And the nurse called me back. So I didn't even get a chance to hear why she was there. So went to the back, and they had me put on a gown, of course. And I got in the bed, gave me some compression socks and the gown, and that was the first nurse. So between 6 a.m. I met with 2 nurses, 2 regular nurses, my OR nurse, my anesthesiologist, and my doctor. So that was from 6 to about 9:30-ish. Originally, my surgery was supposed to be at 8, but we found out that there was another person in front of me, so I kind of got pushed back by an hour. So, meanwhile, everyone there was extremely nice. My nerves was still kind of on, it was like a roller coaster. At one point, I'm like, "Girl, you good, it's nothing." And then I'll be sitting there, like, there's no TV, and it's so early on a Saturday morning. So it's not like I can just call a whole bunch of people and say, "Hey, you know, what you doing?" I'm laying up in the bed about to get, you know, surgery. So the second nurse came in, and she went over a ton of questions just about medications and, you know, all the health related type of questions. And she kind of made me laugh. And so then in comes my anesthesiologist, and she probably showed up about 9, because shortly after she left out, my OR nurse came in and introduced herself, and my doctor, he was like, "Hey, you know, what's going on? You know, they just turned the light on in your room, so I'll be ready for you in just a second." So, you know, it was getting real. So I'm like texting everybody like, "Hey, I'm about to go into surgery." Because again, I think it's nerve-wracking to not have someone there with you. Even though it's day surgery, a lot of people don't call it, some people look at it as minor surgery. I mean, you still get an organ removed, hell, anything can go wrong. But just the comfort of knowing that there's someone with you. Somebody could have, you know, kind of like talked to me, but the nurses did. They were so nice, and, you know, they did their best. And so once I met with the doctor, he left out. My anesthesiologist, she came back in. When she first came in, she asked me a whole lot of questions. The second time she came in, I told her, I was like, "Look, I'm nervous, and, you know, I'm trying to, you know, get over this hump of feelings." She was like, "Girl, don't worry about that. I'm gonna give you something to calm yourself down, and then, you know, we'll take you on to the OR, and you'll be just fine." She was like, "So I'll just give you something to calm down." I was like, "Okay, cool." She gonna give me a little sedative, and your girl is gonna be okay. So she came back, and she put some medicine in my IV. Didn't feel a thing, you know, medicine went in. So here comes my OR nurse while my anesthesiologist is in there, and they're both like, "Okay, let's just go on and wheel her on down there." So, you know, you hear stories about a long hallway. No, my hallway was short. So we cut the corner, and I was like, oh, is this like the little catwalk? Now they're wheeling me in the bed, but we're joking. And I'm like, oh, is this the little catwalk? And she was like, yeah, we're gonna have a party when you get done. I'm gonna give you a margarita. And I was like, well, that sounds fun. And so this was like in a matter of like a minute or two, that from her giving, maybe 2 or 3 minutes, from her giving me the medicine in my IV to them rolling me out, and we hit the doors to the room where I'm gonna have my surgery. So she wheels me in, and she was like, oh, I want you to meet whatever the lady's name was. She's gonna be helping us with your surgery. And I was like, oh, okay. Hey, Miss whatever. And next thing I knew, Mrs. Baker, girl, wake up. What you mean? Where's the countdown that everybody told me I was gonna have? I had prepared for a 10, 9, 8, 7, 6 countdown, you know, like, so the lady gave me the good medicine back in the other room. She just didn't tell me. And I appreciate her for that, because I was nervous as hell. And they woke me up, and I'm looking around confused as hell. Like, what you mean? I was like, so when am I gonna have my surgery? She was like, oh no ma'am, you've already had it. You've been in recovery for a little while, a couple of hours. I was like, what time is it? I left the other room at like 9:30. She was like, oh, it's 12. Your ride is downstairs. What? So I'm high as a kite, high. So I'm like, well, did the surgery go well? Did they get, you know, I was thinking, did they get the gallstones? I meant the gallbladder. Did they get it out? She was like, your surgery went really, really well. So I didn't know that while I was in recovery, the doctor had phoned my family, and the doctor personally spoke to my family. And the nurse also called after my doctor and spoke to my family and gave them all of the instructions. And usually that happens if the family member is there, but because of the coronavirus, they had to call home. So I kind of appreciated that a little bit, that the doctor, because he didn't have to. He could have just let the nurse say, oh, her surgery went well. But the doctor personally called and said she did really well. Surgery was fine. So the nurse was like, okay, you know, let's try to get you dressed, and let's, you know, get you on home. So I set up, and she hands me a green bag, because I must have had some kind of look on my face. And I blessed the bag. Like, it all just came up. And she was like, oh, she was patting me on the back. She was like, get it all out. And I just kind of remember her saying, you know, in the future, if you have surgery, you have to have anesthesia. Just kind of let them know that you get sick a little bit when you wake up. So, you know, for them to kind of be prepared for that. And I was like, okay. So, and she said, I'm going to stand you up a little bit just to make sure I didn't have noodle legs, and that I could stand and maybe take a couple of steps, and that I was okay. She helped me get dressed, and she was talking to me about what to do when I got home. Couldn't tell you what she said. So I remember being wheeled down to the car, and I don't know why it was like I was sleepy, and then I was awake, and I would fall asleep. So while she was talking to me, I would hear bits and pieces of what she was saying. And I just remember her saying, well, you know, when you get home, just be really, really careful. Try not to shower. And I went to sleep. And then next thing I know, I'm on the elevator, and she's still, you know. So I got in the car, and every bump hurt. It was sore, like everyone says, but it was sore like you got stabbed. So every bump hurt. and I was sleeping in the car, waking up, sleeping in the car, waking up. So when I got home, I just passed out. They sent me home with a bag full of, it had a chicken noodle soup in it, like homemade. Y'all, that soup was so good. And like, it was like homemade real chicken noodle soup. So the soup was really good. I was able to eat it. I tried to take a couple of bites when I first got home, but I was feeling kind of nauseous, so I couldn't. And even back at the, in the recovery, they ask you before your surgery, what do you want after the fact? And I chose graham crackers, Sprite, and water. And I tried a little bit of all of those, and I couldn't keep it down. So even when I got home, I couldn't eat anything until a few hours later. So they had given them all of the instructions on what to do, for me not to drive, for a while. The medication, they gave me Tylenol #3, and they gave me some nausea medicine. And they also told me not to scrub around the incision site, because they sealed, and I'll put some pictures up and just a couple of videos that I took while I was at the hospital at the end, because they sealed me up with, I guess the liquid stitch kind of thing. Yeah. So, I think I may make this 2 parts, because I know this first video is super long, because I still have to go over. That was just me getting it done. This is 10 days later, and so I look and feel much better. I have my high and low days, but I may do a second video just to kind of go over that piece of it. So I got you guys up to when I got home, and stay tuned for the recovery part at home, because that is a whole different monster.